Hello friends, today I want to share with you one of my favorite poems, Dover's Beach, written by Mathew Arnold. So before I proceed with this poem, do you think that the love between humans can replace the loss of love between humans and gods? Do you think that we are living in an age where too much of science and rationality has turned us into creatures who are always suspicious of each other? Do you think that this science and rationality has shrunken the space for love? Are we constantly fighting battles in the places where we rather ought to love? So, such questions this poem would take. And if you read this poem, it will help you write an essay on topics related to some existential crisis or love or trust or humanity and so on. And this poem would provide you a lot of good vocabulary, which you can use in your essays, and a lot, and more important than vocabulary, some good thoughts that you can use. If you will read these ideas directly without going through the poem, you can do that, but they will not become a permanent part of your memory. If you will read this poem and see the explanation, then the same ideas and these phrases will reside in your memory for a longer time, and thus you will be able to use them. So let's quickly start this beautiful poem, Dover's Beach. So initially, this poem is about a poet, Mathew Arnold. He is writing. We assume that he has written this poem on his honeymoon. He has taken his wife to a beautiful beach. Wife is some perhaps sitting or staying in a little behind this poet, and maybe at a hotel, maybe or at a she's standing on a cliff or somewhere behind that poet is. The poet is standing there alone and looking into the beach, looking into the dark beach and the sea, and he can hear the sound of the waves, and he can look into the reflection of the moon on the land, and then these thoughts traverse through his minds. And now let's proceed. The sea is calm tonight, the tide is full, the moon lies fair. Upon the straits on the French coast, the light gleams and is gone. So far the poet has described the place where he's standing. The cliffs of England stand, glimmering and vast, out in the tranquil bay. So far he has explained where he is. The bay is tranquil bay, so it's there, it's calm, it's serene. Initially, it looks that the scenery is very beautiful, but as we proceed, there will be a kind of pessimism which will start creeping inside. And the same place, same geographical location would start haunting the poet. So now he says, "Come to the window, sweet is the night here." He says these lines to his beloved, possibly his wife. Come to the window, sweet is the night air, only from the long line of spray where the sea meets the moon-blanched land. So come to the window. The night is sweet is the night air. बाहर आओ, बहुत ही खुशनुमा सा मौसम है. और ये जो झलक दिखाई दे रही है चांद की, the reflection of the moon which you can see on the land, मून ब्लैंच्ड लैंड, मतलब जहाँ पे दिख रहा है, वहां पे आके सुनो कुछ. Try to listen the sound of these waves. Listen, you hear the grating roar. Grating roar is like when water rushes outside, rushes back into the sea, and there's the sound, grating roar. Listen, you hear the grating roar of pebbles which the waves roar back and fling at their return up the high strand. Begin and cease, and then again begin with tremulous cadence slow, and bring the eternal note of sadness in. Now, the place which was so far looking tranquil, calm, serene to the poet, suddenly it starts reminding him as if there is some kind of eternal sadness which that sound is talking about. Tremulous cadence means a shaking and a rhythmic rhythmic stuff. Now he talks about Sophocles. Sophocles was a dramatist or a playwright who was in Greece, and he used to be there long ago in ancient times. And now he relates to Sophocles, and he says that Sophocles might also have heard a similar kind of sound of the music on a sea called Aegean, and that might have brought into his mind the same kind of thoughts about the human miseries which we are having right now. Sophocles long ago heard it on the Aegean, and it brought into his mind the turbid ebb and flow of human misery. Turbid ebb and flow of human misery. I want you to remember these words. Turbid means something which is not clear. Ebb and flow, the rise and fall of human misery. We find also in the sound a thought, hearing it by this distant northern sea. So in this northern sea, we also can find the same thought. Now, comes let's it is the main point of the poem. The sea of faith was once too at the full and the round earth's shore. Now basically what he says is that once upon a time people used to lay trust on each other, people used to trust each other. In fact, people used to trust the god. So this faith was all around us. It was like a sea which was all around us. It was as if a blanket or a huge belt which you could wrap around your waist. It was so vast. It could be wrapped around your waist or around your body, just like this a sea which was there all around this earth. But now this sea has receded because we can't trust each other. The sea of faith was once too at the full and round earth's shore, lay like the folds of a bright girdle fold. Bright girdle fold means is like a belt or like a kind of a dress which you can wear around your waist. But now I only hear its melancholy long withdrawing roar, retreating to the breath of the night wind, down the vast ages drear and naked shingles of the world. So earlier the sea of faith was so vast that it was everywhere. It wrapped around the whole earth, but now it has receded, and these naked shingles of the world, shingles is like some spots, or some stones you can think of, these kind of things which now you can see. They have been left exposed, naked, because the sea of faith is receding, it's going back. And then he says, when sea of faith is receding, people are not able to trust each other. Let us not do the mistake. Now he says to his beloved, the same beloved whom he was calling out of the window, out on the window. Now he says, Allah, let us be true to one another. Let us be true to one another. For the world which seems to lie before us like a land of dreams, so various, so beautiful, so new, has really neither joy nor love nor light, nor certitude nor peace, nor help for pain. And we are here on a darkling plain, swept with confused alarms of struggle and flight, where ignorant armies clash by night. So he says to his beloved, to his wife, whom he has recently married, that let us not do the same mistake which everyone is doing. Let us not be suspicious of each other. Let us be true to one another. Because the world which is there in front of us, it looks like as if it's a land of dreams. It looks like as if it's very beautiful, it's very new. But in reality, it's not the truth. The truth is something else. It's not so beautiful as it seems, because in reality, there is no joy in this world. There is no love. There is no light. There is no certitude. Certitude means a state of certainty. So now there is no state of certainty. We don't know what will happen next. We don't know what to do. There's all confusion all around. There is no peace. People, even today, we see so many mental problems are there. People can't find sleep at night. Nor certitude, nor peace, nor help for pain. So even though there are all these people around us, thousands of people around us, but we can't ask for help from anyone. No one is there who can help us, and no one is, and we would not help anyone. Nobody trusts anyone. People are suspicious of each other, always in a cutthroat competition, always in a competition, always thinking about pros and cons, always being so rational even when they indulge in any kind of relationship with each other. And we are here on a darkling plane, and now we are here on a darkling plane, which means darkling means something which is getting dark. There's no light on this plane, it's all night, it's all dark, swept with confused alarms of struggle and flight. So we have been swept with these confusing alarms of struggle and flight. Always there are some alarms around us which remind us of the struggles which we should unleash or flight, or we should run away from each other. Either we are struggling, either we are quarreling with each other, or we are running away from each other. There's no time for love. There's no time for peace. Where ignorant armies clash by night. Beautiful thought. Ignorant armies clash by night. We are living today in an age where ignorant armies are fighting with each other, and especially they are clashing at night. Now, what does this phrase means? There's a story that once there was an army. All the soldiers of that army were residing at that place, resting, and they were preparing for a war which would have taken place in the morning or maybe the next few days. Now, at the night, somebody ran a false alarm, or, or some mistake occurred, and suddenly the soldiers, they were confused. They thought that the enemy has attacked. There was no enemy. They were all surrounded by friends, but the soldiers thought, because it was all dark, they could not see the faces. They thought that they had been surrounded by the enemies, and they started fighting with each other. They started killing their own friends, their own brothers, their own siblings, their cousins, their people of the same clan. They started fighting with each other, and ultimately they killed each other. They were supposed to be brothers, and they ended up being victims and murderers of each other. So, isn't it the same situation today? We don't trust each other. We are always suspicious of one another, and we are always thinking how we can take the benefit from other person, and how, if someone comes for help for us, we just deny that. We become so rational. We are always talking about profit and loss. We become very business minded, and this all has been the result of all this rationality. We become very rational. We're driven by scientific logic, because when scientific logic precedes or comes forward, then love and faith, it recedes. Emotions recede. People, even today, when they, in their most intimate relationships, they are thinking about profit and loss. Marriage today has become a market. Even relationships between parents and child, it's now become a game of chess. And not just in a family, but even the neighbors are suspicious of each other. People in a village, in the town, in a city, they're suspicious of each other. Within the country, people are suspicious of each other. North Indian, South Indian, East, West. We are all divided. We are all fragmented. Tagore would have been so sad today to see us divided by these narrow and domestic walls. And at the global level, what is happening? Countries are waging wars at each other. Ukraine crisis, Russian crisis. Ukraine, Russia are fighting war with each other, and their Uncle Sam, America, standing at at far distances and still trying to poke his nose out there, trying to instigate the matters, NATO and all these things. Where are we heading? Where are we heading? We all have common problems. We're all we all belong to the same race. We're all humans, but instead of looking into the problems which are common for all of us, we are swept by these confused alarms of flight and struggle, or confused alarms of struggle and flight. We are ignorant armies clashing by night. So the poet is leaving a message, a very beautiful message, and the message which he is leaving is not just for the beloved. He's talking to his beloved. And this poem is such a beautiful poem. Someday when you marry, you can take your spouse and you your spouse at a beautiful place. There you can share this poem with her or him. that let us be true to one another. Let us trust each other. Let us not fake something. Let us not be suspicious. Because at least if we cannot control the entire world, at least be true to one another. Because otherwise, who we are in front of these vast tides and oceans and seas and cliffs and beaches, what is your existence? And forget these beaches and cliffs and oceans. In front of these skyscrapers and these modern jungles and these urban jungles, or where everyone is in a cutthroat competitions, who are you? What is your purpose? What are you living for? Isn't this an existential crisis which is facing all of us? Where can we find refuge then? If you're always driven into this into battles and quarrels, and as I said, you're always thinking about winning the battles on those grounds which in the very first place should have been a venue for making love, or at least thinking about love. Science and rationality today has made us creatures who are always suspicious of each other, always having doubt. Always we're thinking about our rights. What is my right? This is my right. This is your right. Okay. But no one is talking about this responsibilities. No one is talking about trust. And that is why the world is falling apart. Relationships are dying and families are breaking down. Cities are breaking down. Countries are fighting with each other. Countries are becoming bankrupt, still sponsoring terrorism. So this is how it is. The poet is talking to his beloved. But remember that he is leaving the message not just for the beloved, but for the entire mankind. That let us be true to one another. So this was the poem. Now I think if we read it again, you can get the message. So poet stands on the beach and he says, and and read these lines very carefully. If you will do that, you will notice that how the rise and fall in the length of the sentences corresponds to the rise and fall of the waves. And very carefully, if you read it, you can observe the sound of the waves and sea in these lines. The sea is calm tonight, the tide is full, the moon lies fair. Upon the straits on the French coast, the light gleams and is gone, gleams and is gone. It looks like as if there is a light, it turns on and it's off. And that the poet has replicated in his words, gleams and is gone. The cliffs of England stand glimmering and vast and out in the tranquil bay. Come to the window, sweet is the night air. The poet says to his beloved, come to the window, sweet is the night air, only from the long line of spray where the sea meets the moon-blanched land. Listen, you hear the grating roar of pebbles which the waves draw back and fling. At their return up the high strand, begin and cease and then again begin with the tremulous cadence slow and bring the eternal note of sadness in. Sophocles long ago heard it on the aging, and it brought into his mind the turbid ebb and flow of human misery. We find also in the sound a thought, hearing it by this distant northern sea. The sea of faith was once too at the full and round earth's shore, lay like the folds of a bright girdle fold. But now I only hear its melancholy, long withdrawing roar, retreating to the breath of the night wind, down the vast edges drear and naked shingles of the world. Allah, Allah, let us be true to one another, for the world which seems to lie before us like a land of dreams, so various, so beautiful, so new, has really neither joy nor love, nor light, nor certitude, nor peace, nor help for pain. And we are here on a darkling plain, swept with confused alarms of struggle and flight, where ignorant armies clash by night. So let us not be like the ignorant armies clashing by night. Let us be true to one another. So I hope you loved the message of the poem which the poet has left to his beloved and to the entire mankind. And you love the philosophy behind the poem and, of course, the poem itself. I hope so. So that was the poem. I hope you liked it. Uh, Thank you all.